Yo, what's up? Welcome back. Welcome if you're new. My name is Mark, and today is a very special day because we have the Isekai Office Worker OVA. It just came out, and I just reacted to it for free over on Patreon in the description down below and in the pinned comment. Go check out the reaction. It, I highly recommend you go. That made me cry a few times, and it was just such a good reaction. So go check it out, and then come back here for the review because we have a lot to talk about because I was so happy when the OVA came back, man. Because like I knew we had an OVA coming, and I have thoughts. But before that, as always, if you're new here, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and ding that notification bell. The Patreon, as always, is down below. As I said, check out the reaction for free over there. Just become a free member, and you can check it out. You also get a shout out if you become a paid member over on the Patreon. And with that said, if you're new here, strap in. If you've been here before, you know what to do. Grab your snacks, grab your drinks, grab your notebooks, and let's talk about the episode. So, this episode of this OVA, I should say, not episode, this OVA was titled I Reminisce. And at first, off rip, I thought it was more about more about Seiichiro, reminiscing. But it might actually be a little bit more than that. But anyways, the episode starts out with Arash and Seisan going shopping because it's been 5 days since they moved into the house, and so they gotta go furniture shopping and stuff. And Seisan looks so uncomfortable in the store, bro. Like he just does not look like he knows how to be there, if that makes sense. It's not that he doesn't want to be there, I don't think. He just doesn't know how. And it turns out it's because he's because he's a commoner, he's not used to being in a place for like the royalty and nobles shop. But before that, I gotta shout out the employee there who like is able to move on swiftly from the PDA, because Arash pulled Seisan close in a very sweet, touching sort of way, and the employee, he was surprised, but then he moved on just like that, which was nice to see. It was just a small thing, and apparently, we also got to see another lady that Seisan helped save from falling. And I wrote down that she was pretty, because she was. She was an older lady, a noblewoman, refined, as Seicho called her. And she was very pretty. And we are going to see her again quite a bit, surprisingly. But also, it's not surprising. Like, you see her, it's not surprising that we're going to see her again, because we saw her face. They didn't have to show what she looked like if they're just going to make her a background character that we never see again. But anyways, Seicho says that he feels out of place at the store as a commoner. And I asked the question, is that really all? And I don't know if that actually is just the only reason why he feels out of place. But also, Arash brought up a very good point that Seicho works at the royal palace with like the prime minister and stuff. And yet, Seicho, totally in character for him, might I add, says that work and everything else are different. And that is so in character for him, man. He's able to lock in during work time, but when he's not at work, he locks out. Like, yeah, that's fair. And that's that. So gotta move on. And so seeing that Seisan's a little uncomfortable and feels out of place, Arash is like, yo, here, come with me. And so they go to what I assume is like a commoner marketplace. At least that's the vibe I got. And it definitely was probably outside of Arash's comfort zone, but it was a sweet gesture of Arash being like, okay, I took you to a place that I'm comfortable with. I'll take you to a place you should be more comfortable with too. And I just really like that. I really just love their relationship as a whole, man. It's just so sweet. Am I missing something here? Hold on. Okay, no. I not missing something. I'm getting ahead of myself with a thought that I had. But they enter a new place, a magic tool shop, which really cool. I didn't know commoners had one. Which is pretty cool to see. And they find out a heating device that is apparently something that Arash was surprised that commoner shops have one. And it also just came in actually, which is convenient that they get it. But also, we get to see Seisan smile once he's in the shop looking around a lot. Well, maybe not smile per se, but he's very like happy to be there. And we get to see Aresh smile as well, and it was just so sweet. I just love these two so much, man. I love these two. I'm just so happy seeing them again. I wrote that down so I could remember to say that because I am. Just in case I forgot, but I didn't forget. I'm just so happy to see them again, man. But Aresh was like, yo, we'll take this heating device because you put like a something inside it, like a magic gem, I think, or whatever, and it like will activate. And he gave it to Seisan to keep in his room because he gets cold. And then Seisan mentions how time flies because right about now it'd be getting cold in Japan as well, probably. And this is definitely like reminiscing a little bit about how time flies and all that. And I have thoughts about the whole Japan stuff, but I am gonna save that for later because I want to get through other stuff first as well. And so yeah, they take that with them. Wait, this page. And so the shop owner's like, yo, since you're taking this, I'll throw in a free tool. And it's and he has no idea what it does. Straight up. But Seiichiro does think it looks like something that he's seen in his world before. A kaleidoscope. Now, I'm familiar with a kaleidoscope enough to know what they do. I don't know how they work, but I know what they do. It kind of looks like a telescope to me. But like, fair enough. And what was interesting also is I made this point of how at some point, like around that point when Seisan mentioned that it's similar to something in his world, Aresh's face was almost tense when Seisan mentioned his world. And I could be looking way too into this, which is normal for me when it comes to this show and most shows that I react to. But is Aresh tense because Seisan keeps focusing on his world, and he's like counting down he might think that he's counting down the days that he can run back, or is there something more to it, or is it just not that deep? It might not be that deep, but it reads to me like maybe he's worried that Seiichiro isn't like happy with him, there with him, and is like waiting to go home, or maybe just like because he's stuck thinking about his world. He's not going to be able to enjoy his time here. I don't know. But I'm probably reading into it too much. But anyways. Arash is like, yo, take it with you. Since it's free. Might as well. I mean, free stuff. Who could say no to free stuff, man? And so... Oh, also, I mentioned the eye bags are still there on Seiichiro. I'm starting to think that the eye bags are just a permanent affixture to his face. Genuinely. Like, we've seen it like one or twice where there were like no eye bags or very little, but now they're back in full force. And unfortunate, bro. Oh, there was a funny moment that I wanted to mention during a little montage of them looking around the commoner marketplace. Aresh is dragging Seiichiro away from a potion shop, and I just thought that was funny. Kind of funny, actually. But anyways, they eventually leave and go back to their home. Their home, yeah. And so Aresh is like, yo, because Seiichiro's in his room. I will be right back. Apologies, YouTube. I am back. I had a phone call to take that was kind of important. So, anyways, let's move back on to what we were talking about. Aresh and Seisan get back home to their home. And Seisan's in his room doing his own thing, checking the tool. When Aresh walks right in, he doesn't knock. And Seisan's like, yo, you forgot to knock, man. But then he's like, yeah, I forgot to knock. Oh, well. And Seisan is a little complaining. But then he's like, I can't complain too much because this is his house. And technically, yeah, it is his house, but this is his room. And I wrote down something that I wanted to talk about as well. That I've definitely talked about this in the actual reaction to the show as well earlier on. But if Seisan genuinely like sat Aresh down and like genuinely like explained how uncomfortable he might be or how much he might prefer him to knock and stress, like knocking means a lot to me when you enter my space, sort of thing. I think Aresh would like take that to heart and would listen. And it would probably help if also Seiichiro brought it up to like Voltoy? Or the butler guy, the really cool butler guy, and I asked him for help as well with that. Like, cause Arash doesn't try to make Seicho uncomfortable or upset. That's the last thing he wants to do. So I think if he just if Seicho told him that, he'd actually listen. It might take some getting used to, but like genuinely sit him down and explain it to him instead of just like letting him off the hook essentially. If this really bothers him as much as it might seem to do. But moving on from that, they are looking at the tool now, or Seicho is, and he sees something on here that he can't recognize, but apparently Arash can. It's ancient writing on the tool, and the ancient writing is the ancient language that's used in magic tools and spell formulas. And Seicho was unfamiliar with that, and because the it all sounded the same to him, because the summoning circle thing brought them to when it brought them, it had like a translation function as well, and so it didn't make any sense to him, like any difference to him. But turns out that it sounds like singing to him when Arash is like doing his thing, like that healing and stuff. Like it sounds like singing. That explains why we hear singing, but everyone else might not. It's interesting to me how that actually works. But unfortunately, despite it being an ancient language, ancient writing, the sequence on the tool means nothing. So we're back to square one, unfortunately. And let's move on to the next point I have to talk about, which is on this page. Cool. And so that's that. And so next day, we get to see East-san again, which I'm happy for. I'm always happy to see East-san, man. He's so precious. He's just so adorable. I just love him, man. Like it's hard to hate him. I just love him so much, man. I have a problem. It's easy to love characters like him that are just sweet, precious, adorable, all that jazz. He's just a great character. And so Sei-san brought the writing to him to see if he understood it, but apparently to him it also means nothing. And he did not bring the tool, because he knows that if he brought the tool, East-san would never give it back to him. And so it was a good idea not to bring the tool to him, especially for what we learn later on. But East-san unfortunately does not know either. But he does say that the patterns on the tool might mean something. But Seicho's like, I don't know what they look like, bro. I don't remember it. But then East-san's like, you don't? Weird. But then Seicho is like, no, you're the weird one. But then he remembers East-san is also a genius prodigy for like magic and stuff. So it makes sense that... Hold on. Gotta up the angle a little bit. There we go. So it makes sense that he would remember stuff like that. And let's see, where are we moving on. So he leaves, because of course he does. And we finally run into Quelbus. I believe it's Quelbus. He called him Ciro something. But Quelbus, I love him. Love the guy, man. Love his design. I love everything about him. He's just so peak, bro. And so he shows us the writing to Quelbus as well. And Quelbus explains that he may not be as like familiar like everything like Sei-san and not Sei-san, like Arash and East-san are, but he does know a bit about the Egurova style magic, which is apparently Egurova is the northern country, and it's a country where, according to Quelbus, it's a country where magic tool development is advanced, and it's partly because its mines produce many magic stones, which is cool to know. And we're at a point now where I'm going to mention this. I am surprised that we're getting so much world building for a show that might not come back. Because I know for a fact that last season with season 1, that season 1, the way it ended, it screamed like it could be a series finale. And like, I wouldn't have been happy, but I would have like, I could live with it, because it did end at a good point. The problem is that this OVA, and I believe the OVA is like, this isn't like anime only material. This is like from the original source, which is the manga or light novel, I believe. And like, So like the fact that they're giving all this information, it tells me. But to be fair, I also don't exactly know. Like, this is 5 days after they moved into their new house, so this is after season 1 ends. But like the fact that we're getting all this information, like about different countries and stuff, like it tells me, especially with how much focus we're getting on Igorova, it tells me that we might get more in like a season 2 or something, or a movie even. Because I don't know why they build up the world even more like this and leave it open-ended with more information and more questions and not follow through on it. But tangent aside, Quelbus knows so much because his grandma was from there, which is cool. It's cool to learn more about Quelbus as well. He's like one of the ones we've learned the least amount, I think, genuinely. Like, we know he's good, attractive, and like a good friend and stuff, but that's about it. We don't know much about him. But his grandma was from Egorova, and unfortunately, when Seisan asks him if he knows what it means, he doesn't know. And to be fair, Quelbus did say that he studied it a little bit, but he didn't study it that much. And so that is fair. But then, it was our Quelbus or Satro that brought up the point about how it appears that they interpret the ancient language differently from Romani. I think it's Quelbus that mentions that, how they interpret it differently from Romani, which is cool. It's cool how also different, like, this is because like the ancient language is like probably like the first language, right? Like, it's cool to see how different countries or cultures adapt it and interpret it differently. Which is also gives me the question of why the fuck are we getting this kind of information, but then never expounding on it again, assuming that there's no season 2 or movie or whatever. I would take a movie at this point, honestly. And I don't usually do movie reactions just because I don't really like movies. But I would react to a Isekai Office Worker movie. Straight up. I'll be honest about that. Anyways, moving on. Aresh and Seicho leave, and they stop by the marketplace again, because that's where Seicho wanted to go, and Aresh is like, sure, and he accompanies Seicho. But then Seicho's like, yo, you don't have to come with me, Aresh. But then Aresh is like, I rarely get to see you show interest outside of work, so this is like a rare thing for him, and so that's valid for wanting to go with the man. That's so valid at this point. And so they go to the magic tool shop. And before they go to the tool shop, though, they see the pretty older lady again, who's leaving the place, a noble woman. But before we get to talk about her more, they enter the shop to talk to the guy. And turns out the merchant, a merchant gave the tool to him. They dumped the tool shop guy. They dumped the tool on the magic tool shop guy, because the merchant from Agora just gave it to him for some reason. And so, moving on to the merchant, Aresh mentioning noblewoman that entered. She said that she was looking for something from a famous craftsman. That's why she was there, and that's why the shopkeeper was. That's why she was talking to the shopkeeper. And so that was interesting information to us. And then, as they leave, we finally get to learn about the noblewoman, supposedly. Aresh believes that the noblewoman is from the Hanzelka family. Cool name. And he believes that she's the wife of the late count, which, not as cool, kind of more depressing, depending on how the count died. But that's not important, so I'm going to move on. And then I asked the question, because at some point, Aresh is a little more, like, we keep seeing Aresh be a little more tense or bothered in the later half of the episode. A little bit more when he's with Seisan. And I asked the question of, and I could be very wrong here, but could Aresh be bothered by their status differences? Because technically, Seitro's a commoner, and Aresh is not a commoner. He's the son of a marquis, and like the commander of the Third Royal Order of Knights and whatever. Like, he's just like, he's everything that Seitro is not. And I wonder if Aresh could be bothered by the difference in status, or wondering if that's why, or wondering if like Seitro can't wait for him to leave, or something like that. Or I don't know. I have thoughts about those two, but turns out there are, as what's his name? Isan said, there are in fact hidden letters within the patterns, and so they're looking through it. I also asked the questions: is the tool the noblewoman looking for? This tool? It makes sense if you think about it. Like the fact that we're seeing her so often, we're struggling to figure out how this tool works. That we're like that this is the tool that she's looking for. And turns out when the letters on the pattern, they translate to, or it's our letters in the patterns or the letters in like something else. They translate to my beloved Rina, whoever Rina is. I think Rina's obviously, by this point I'm like, yo, is Rina the noblewoman? It has to be, right? That's the only reason it makes sense that we're seeing her again. And so then we get to see Seiichiro break Aresh's brain by explaining the fact that kanji, a single character, kanji character, can have different meanings. Which I knew that, like logically I knew that. I just never think about it. But yeah, it makes sense. It's why there often are sometimes jokes in anime, especially about like a character's name meaning something different or something like that. Like it makes sense. And so, but he's breaking Aresh's brain, how like Seiichiro's name, the character for Sei, can mean truth, sincerity, or genuine, and Aresh is just like, huh? Like, it's so funny watching Aresh's brain get broke like that, bro. And I also wrote down that this is the tool part with the letter saying to my beloved Rina. I wrote down that's kind of depressing. It's sweet, but kind of depressing. And so finally, something called Mara Hill is mentioned, and Aresh is like, yo, I'll take you there. And so they go next day. And that's when we finally, everything comes full circle and we run into the lady, the noblewoman. She's there. Also, the view is beautiful of like the hills and everything. From what you can see, it's all beautiful. And because Aresh is there, it's even more beautiful. Like, and Seisan's also beautiful. So like it's just a beautiful view altogether. And so we finally get to meet the noblewoman, and we learn, and well, Aresh first introduces himself, the third son of the Indelark. I think he's the third son of the Indelark, Aresh Indelark or something like that. And turns out she is from the Han. I already forgot the name of the family. Hold on. The Hanzelka family. Hanzelka? Zelka or Velka? Hanzelka. On the Hanzelka family. And finally, everything's come full circle. We learn that Aresh asks, he's like, forgive me for asking, but is your name Rina? But then she's like, my name is Ravenna, which very pretty name, might I add. Pretty name for a pretty woman. Fair enough. But she says, my close friends call me Rina. And so that's when Seiichiro's like, yo, I think this is for you. And turns out, the maker of the tool was her lover before her marriage was arranged. Which, it's sweet that he made it for her, but also kind of sad. Because when I think of arranged marriage, I always think of how it's like you don't usually have a choice. At least from all the media I've seen that involve arranged marriages, usually you don't really have a choice at some point, especially in these kind of worlds where like hierarchy, nobles and stuff like that, you have less of a say than if it was like modern day, I guess. But yeah, it was before they were married, before she got married in her arranged marriage. The toolmaker was her lover, which was sweet, and he was from Ergodorova. It's Ergodorova, right? Ergodorova. I'm definitely butchering that. I'm trying my best, man, but I'm definitely butchering that. And so they don't know how to use it. But then Seisan is like, yo, that ring, is that a gift from your lover? And she's like, it is. And so she puts it in because it fits perfectly into the tool, because the tool was missing some kind of gem or crystal or whatever. And then we got to see like a replay of some of the memories that they had together. It was so sweet, bro. I actually cried. Like, I genuinely shed a couple tears. Like, genuinely, that was sad. It was sad. Sweet, but sad. Bittersweet. That's the word. And eventually, though, once that's all said and done, Sei-san's like, yo, you can have it. Clearly, because it's for you. And Aresha's like, later on, they're in the carriage. Well, she also, of course, she also says thank you, but I don't think I need to mention that. But in the carriage, Aresha's like, are you sure? That was yours. But then he's like, it was for her. Not for me. I don't need it. And he thought, and Ares thought that he was like surprised that because it was like from like similar to his world, but no. Sei-san was just curious about it being from his world. And that's also when we learned that magic tools can be made for personal people, which is cool. It makes sense, obviously, but it's cool to learn that, just to know. And I also wrote down that the engineer was a romantic guy. Definitely, that's some romantic shit right there, bro. If you ask me. And so now, finally, before the end credits hit, Seicho's thinking back everything. He's wondering if he ever goes back to his world in the future. And he has a lot of thoughts about going back to his world. But then, the carriage stops. Ares stands up. He holds out his hands, and he's like, "Let's go home, our home." And that, bro, that got me emotional, bro. Just that softness, the way he softly said that, with a soft smile, held out the hand. That was just so sweet, bro. I love that so much. And then Seicho just decides, yeah, I'll worry about that later. For now, I'm gonna focus on the present, and that's where the OVA ends. And as I said earlier, this gives me the vibe of they could continue this with like a season 2 or something. I can't believe that the source material is done. It just doesn't feel done. If this is like everything adapted, it just doesn't feel quite done to me. But that doesn't matter. It is what it is. Whenever something comes back, if it does, another OVA maybe, I'll react to it like always. And hopefully by the time another OVA returns, hopefully comes back, I will have a different setup, so I'll be able to do full reactions like I used to instead of doing these reviews. Because I like doing these reviews at this point, but I do prefer being able to just do straight up reactions all the way through and putting them on YouTube as well. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. So I'm gonna finally wrap it up here. Again, thank you for everyone who joined me on the original Isekai Office Worker journey and who came back for this one. I do appreciate it a lot. And of course, you can check out the Patreon for the free reaction to the OVA down in the description down below. And yeah, I don't have much else to say. So thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to like button, subscribe, and ding that notification bell. Hype the video in the YouTube mobile app. Patreon, as always, as I said, down below. And in the pinned comment as well as always. You also get a shout out if you become a paid member, so check it out over there. And yeah, with that said, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, my name is Mark. Never stop being yourself. Stay safe, and I will see all you incredible people in the next video.